of your role as a city council member, if any role, in interfacing with the management of public safety in the delivery of public safety, police, and fire services in Scottsdale?
I believe that any city council, especially with the system that we have set up with our public safety, is that we have a manager that oversees all of it, and a fire chief and a police chief. Any organization, when you start micromanaging lower levels of that organization, you're trying to do something that you probably don't have the best skill set to do. I know that I've never been a police officer nor a firefighter, but I know there's a lot of very qualified people here in the city that have, and a lot of very qualified, bright people at the top levels of that. And when you talk about the amount of public safety needed, this isn't a subjective number that we just throw against a wall, or public safety or the chiefs throw against there. They actually go out and find the science behind it, algorithms from institutions like Northwestern that back up the amount of police and the amount of fire that they're requesting or needing that they feel is adequate to keep this city safe. And we start to challenge that. You're saying you're doing something or know better than something that you really don't have anything about. And as long as our management that we feel is the proper place, being fiscally responsible to the city, I think they're doing a great job at maintaining that public safety.
Well, I agree with what Christian is saying regarding oversight from the point of view that you don't tell professionals how to do their work, you don't micromanage that. On the other hand, when someone comes to you and requires resources and requests resources from the city, the council's job is to evaluate that and make the proper decision, and not either to ignore it or minimize the request. We have so varied conditions in this city of ours. For example, I lived very close to New York City for a long time. New York has high-rise fires. We don't have really high-rise fires here. We have brush fires. We have rescues when we have swollen rivers or washes. We have other emergencies that are unique to this part of the country that if you're looking at it from the point of view of saying, well, we don't know what to expect, we don't know what to anticipate. You're right, they do use extreme studies for that. But as a council, it's imperative that we understand this city doesn't have a one or two dimensional fire or, for that matter, crime threat. We have to understand and anticipate. And if someone comes to us and says, as council members, this is what's required, we have to be able to understand what they're asking us for.
The council is there to make policy decisions, not to make management decisions. We are if we were a company, we are the board of directors, and we have managers that manage the city. And we have to make policy decisions about things that affect the police department. We decide the budget for the police department. There's one brought to us that we discuss, and we have to approve it. So it's incumbent upon a council member to understand the inner workings of the city so you can make intelligent decisions. It doesn't mean you direct departments, but you have to understand how those departments function. You have to understand the intricacies and why people are needed in certain areas, and why certain tools are needed, why certain equipment is needed, such as was mentioned on the observation tower. It is for the police chief to decide that if the tower should come in. Now, we don't have one, we don't own one, but if he wants to come in and test one, it's not up to us to tell the police chief that he can't do that, because that's not what the council does.
I do not believe that it's, as Suzanne was saying, it's the city council's position to micromanage the police department or the fire department. I put it upon the police chief, Chief Broadbell, to put a budget together that really is has all the requirement. If he feels he needs more feet on the street, then that's in the budget. If there's programs that he needs, the school programs, the DARE programs, things have been cut. If he feels that the police department, the fire department need it for the safety and security of our city, he puts in the budget, he presents it to the council, and we're there to represent the residents of Scottsdale to make sure that that it's fiscally sound, that it makes sense. We have to understand the workings of what goes on so that we can ask intelligent questions and really understand what's presented to us. But it really is the police chief's place to know what the police department needs to keep us safe.
The comment I would make is that is correct, as some people have said, that it's not the council's job to manage public safety. However, I think the council has stepped in and done a bit of that, I think unwisely so. And as I make my point, I'll note that Councilwoman Klapp wasn't a part of this, but I've watched over the last year or so, I've seen Chief Olson absolutely raked over the coals in front of the council to the tune of about 45 minutes over an administrative decision he made regarding an ambulance contract that was fully within his authority and right to make. And I watched him, and it went on and on and on. It was the best example of beating a dead horse I've ever seen. He was completely polite and professional. I appreciated that from him. But it was inappropriate. I've also seen Chief Rodbell raked over the coals over RICO funds and how he was using them and what he was going to spend them for. Again, these are not council decisions. The council needs to entrust and follow the correct process, which is to allow public safety to be responsive to the city manager and operate in that.
Back in 2003, I was appointed by the city council to serve on the Scottsdale Fire and EMS committee, and I learned a tremendous amount about our fire department. Is when we were planning on moving into a city-run department, which I support and supported. But that didn't make me an expert on fire, and I would not make that judgment call going forward on the council. My history as a business leader is to entrust the leadership that I've hired to run a division or a department, and I trust them. And I would trust our fire chief as well. And our
when I was elected to the school board, I walked in. I am not a professional educator. I believe it is our job to create a vision, not unlike the city council. We create a vision and we hire people to expedite that vision. But the other part of the equation is we have to support the people that we've hired. If you don't support the folks, you don't get your job.
I believe that you have to advocate for the people that are doing this job, because sometimes their voice doesn't get heard and it doesn't make it through the city manager to the council. For instance, there's a lot of frustration right now because some of the personnel have been stripped out of the firehouses. There's frustration because we have a ladder truck in downtown Scottsdale that doesn't even have a pump on it. There's frustration because 300 police officers say that we need a watchtower in downtown Scottsdale, and that has been strangled out. I believe our chief of police even would like to do this, but he's suppressed because of the city manager. Who else is going to address this? Who else is going to advocate for the things that we need?
Simply the city council's roles with policy, not with management. And sometimes, and our responsibility also with policy is budget. Sometimes those administrative decisions cross over into budget, and I guess where some of the issue is. But we are about policy. Thank you.
Very simply, the role of city council is to be a listener and a communicator, and if you're keeping good communication with your department staff and your chiefs of staff, with Mr. Rodbell, with Chief Olson, if you've got that communication going on a regular basis, you know at the same time they know when a need needs to be met. It's the communication, it's the data gathering, it's the substance. But then you rely on those who know best how to do their jobs, and you let them do their jobs.